I'll call this meeting to order. This is Alpine Town Council budget work session on whatever the date is today, June 11th. It's 2:06. We don't have like a formal agenda, but I'll just run through real quick. We'll take a roll here in just a second. But we've invited Star Valley Health to come talk about EMS. And then we're going to jump into the budget that the treasurer has put together. And then we're very loose as far as, public comment and whatnot. If you have a question, you're more than welcome to raise your hand or whatever, and we'll see if we can answer it then, or wait to the end if someone has a bigger public comment to make. But yeah, we're kind of loose compared to normal town council meetings, so feel free to speak up whenever you want to. Madam Clerk, do you mind taking roll real quick?
Absolutely. Jeremy Larson.
Here.
Andrea Burchard.
I believe she's out of town, but she's excused. Yes.
Mayor Green.
Here.
Amy Weirda.
She's absent and excused as well.
And Shay Scafidi.
Here.
Thanks.
Mayor Green, you have a quorum of the council.
Thanks, Shay. Feel free to speak up whenever you have a question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So first things first, we wanted to invite Star Valley Health to come and discuss EMS. As many in the public probably know, that I sit on the working group for the EMS, as does Mike Vogt here, our fire chief. And I think it's an opportunity to kind of clear the air and figure out where we are now, how we got here, and what the solutions are for EMS. So I'll let you come up, Trevor, and you can turn on that microphone if you don't mind, and tell everyone your name and role at Star Valley Health.
Okay. Mayor, members of the council, thanks for allowing me to be here. My name is Trevor Merritt, and I'm the Vice President of HR and Support Services with Star Valley Health. So I provided the council with a one-pager that we had discussed in our EMS work group, essentially kind of explaining where we're at now with EMS services and what we feel is maybe a pathway forward. As you all know, Star Valley Health agreed to take over EMS services in 2021. We have a current 5-year agreement that ends in November. We also have an agreement that was signed in 2008 with the town of Afton and the county. And essentially what we are requesting is our EMS services right now are a significant expense to Star Valley Health. Star Valley Health has borne that expense for the last 5 years, and this year we're projecting a $1.7 million loss for EMS services provided to the entire service area, so basically the North Lincoln County Hospital District. There's also a service provided to Bonneville County and the Bonneville County Fire District. And so with the shortfall this year, we had created an EMS work group that had members from the county and members from the towns, the municipalities in the valley. We also had Mike Voigt on this work group, and we sought to get an EMS district created from the county commissioners. Most of you probably know that didn't happen.
That was the working group decided that was the best course of action.
Yep. Yeah, we felt like that was a good way to go. The entire time, knowing that maybe the district would be created and not necessarily funded, because it would still rely on a vote in the November election to actually fund the district. Ultimately, the county commissioners voted no on that, and our goal as providers to this community is to continue to maintain the same level of service that we've provided for the last 5 years. However, as I mentioned, we do anticipate a significant shortfall. So our request is we want each of the towns and the county as well, we are requesting that they help us make up that shortfall. As you know, our biggest expense is in the form of salaries and wages for our providers, our EMS employees, but we also have other expenses. We pay for, we actually just moved to a different building here in Alpine. We pay about $2,700 a month for that building, and then we pay, Mike has agreed to allow us to place our ambulance into the station over there for a minimal cost, and we appreciate that. But we do anticipate that even with, that support, that we will have still a significant shortfall. So our request from the towns is that they come to the table with something, whether it's whether it's funding, additional funding that they can provide to help support EMS services, or we're even amenable to like in-kind type services that help us offset our expenses. So we understand you guys are already in your budget process and that this may be kind of a challenge right now. Unfortunately, we didn't know exactly what was going to happen with the EMS district, and so that's why we're maybe a little bit late to the game with this. But nevertheless, we are coming and hopeful that each of the different municipalities will come to the table and help us with this shortfall. So I'm happy to take any questions you all have, and Ryan's here as well. Ryan is our EMS director, and so if you have any questions regarding the services we provide, I've had him come along to help answer those.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So I have several questions, and as I've already mentioned, I sit on that working group, and this, of course, is a very difficult situation that the EMS is in. It's important to the community in general. I think there might be a lot of questions from the community on, like, what was the plan? How long have you been at Star Valley Health?
So I've been at Star Valley Health since 2013, but I was just put over EMS when the transfer agreement happened in 2021.
So maybe you can help answer this question, but like, what was the plan more than 5 years ago before, and you guys encouraged everyone to, what was the grand plan? How are you going to make it work?
Well, and Mike may remember some of these conversations. I think ultimately our hope was that so Star Valley Health is a critical access hospital, and being a critical access hospital, we have the benefit of getting cost-based reimbursement. It sounds great. You have costs, and the goal of CMS is to cover those costs. However, there are several costs that are not able to be covered with the hospital, and ultimately we end up subsidizing different services in the hospital, like OB, for example. OB does not make money for the hospital. Our clinics that we provide, they generally do not make money for the hospital. The care center doesn't make money for the hospital. So in the past, we've always had this mill levy for the North Lincoln County Hospital District, and its intent was to cover those types of services. When we picked up EMS, we felt like, number one, we would be able to get a better reimbursement than each of the different municipalities alone. And I think we've been able to see that, but it still is not enough to cover the total costs of EMS. I guess as far as like what the end goal was, at the time when Mr. Ordina met with the group, I think his goal was to help with the volunteer, that we felt like, and I think most of the people at the time knew that the volunteer service and model had worked for a long time, but it started to fail. And so I think his goal at the time was just really to just kind of prop it up and get it to where it was actually functioning the way it should. And I think for the most part, we've been able to do that. But again, the reimbursements that we get just do not cover the costs that we have. A lot of our calls are non-billable calls, and so we go out to the scene of an accident and somebody refuses treatment, and so we walk away from that. We've provided the service, but there's no revenue generated from that. We also do a lot of standbys for our communities. We provide standby for the county at the rodeos and things like that. And so some of those standbys we've been able to charge for, like Lodajaw, we've charged a fee to do that. But a lot of the other services that we provided to the community, we haven't charged for those types of things. And so I guess to answer your question, I think, there wasn't necessarily a plan moving forward of how this was going to be sustainable. We just knew that we had to do something, and we knew that we had to provide a service and get to where the care and the coverage was happening for our communities. And as I mentioned, I feel like we've done that, but the shortfall is just too much for one entity alone to handle.
Well, I will say that, in my opinion, you guys have taken something that was struggling and made it like the Cadillac of EMS.
Yeah.
And that leads into my next question. If you don't get this funding from the towns, from the county, all these things to cover the shortfall, like, what's the plan? How can you make it work?
Yeah, so we do feel like ultimately we will have to cut services that we provide. I've mentioned this before. We use something called unit hourly utilization, which basically is how often is your service actually busy. So part of EMS is just being ready for a call, right?
Yep.
And that means, well, it's if you only had one station in the valley. Let's say, for example, we put a station in Afton. That doesn't really do us a lot of good up here in Alpine. And so part of our model is that we have to cover a large geography. And so our unit hourly utilization, if you look at it on paper, you'll say, oh, you can easily cover the call volume. It only ends up being like 3.5, 4 calls a day. But from a geography standpoint, your service times and your ability to respond to the scene in a timely manner is really impacted by the geography of Star Valley. And so I think that's the challenge that we have with being able to continue to provide the same level of service is, if we can't receive additional subsidy from the communities that we serve, then we feel like we'll likely have to cut our services back, which is something that I don't want to do. It makes me and Ryan both very nervous, just because we know that there's going to be calls that are going to be unanswered, or that they'll be answered in a way that is not great for our response times and being able to cover the geography of the valley.
So can you save $1.7 million by, lowering the level of service, or you have to make some bigger cuts, for example?
I think we can get closer if we had one station. If we had one station, I think that we could get closer to breaking even. If we had one station that covered the entire valley and covered all of our transfers, I think that would be a model where you might actually get close to break even under the current circumstances. And again, if you go to one station, it just creates all sorts of other problems for the community. You'll have to limit the number of standbys that we do. We'll certainly have more status zero calls than what we have now. Ryan, maybe you can mention how many status zeros we've had just in the last month under a 3-station model.
Explain what a status zero is.
Okay.
Ryan, do you mind coming up?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah.
For the many people at home that are listening.
Yeah. So my name is Ryan Ballard. I'm the Director of EMS for Star Valley Health. Status zero is a metric of how many ambulances are available to respond to a 911 call. So status zero, if a 911 call drops at dispatch, we have 0 ambulances that are able to respond at that time. Status zero time average is about an hour to an hour and a half. Over the last month, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but we've probably had 20 times with 3 stations that no ambulances were available for probably about an hour. I know just yesterday we had 4 times where 1 ambulance was available and 1 time where 0 were available. So
And is that mostly because you've got transfers?
it's sort of a rich dynamic. 2 hours before I came here, there was an accident on Highway 99. 2 vehicles were involved that took 2 ambulances out of service, just transporting the number of patients we have. So it's very common to have status zero just based on 911 volume with the transport time we have. But transfers will play into effect because the transfer time is longer. The ambulances are unavailable.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan.
Sure.
So I'm happy to hear, Trevor, that you got a new place to store the ambulance. The old deal was a really bad deal that you had.
Yeah.
So I'm pleased that, so I'm pleased that you have another option. I think it's way better. It'll make things, that should help your budget a fair amount.
Yep.
But, so I can't speak for everybody. I will just tell my opinion that I believe the EMS special district is the way that we can make this successful in the future, because what that does is, if, for example, the county would have approved the board, there would have been a committee of people that are making these decisions. For one, who the provider is. They'd be able to establish your budget, things like that. So I think it's an outside committee that's, their goal is to provide the best service for the citizens, right? So I still think that is the best path forward. And to do that, it sounds like the petition process is the next step for that. So can you just walk us through real quick what that process is?
Yeah, so my understanding of the petition process is, and I may have my percentages wrong, but you have to go to the landowners for the district that you're wanting to tax, and you have to get a percentage of those landowners that agree and sign a petition saying that they would be in support of this. And I can't remember the exact
I think it's
percentage.
25% of the value.
The value, yeah.
So if there's some big in-holdings and they have a lot of value in them, you
Yep.
definitely want to get them to help
Yeah.
your numbers.
And from my understanding, that's part of the challenge, is that you may have people who have big land holdings that maybe EMS isn't that big of a deal to them because they're not here all the time. And so I think even the EMS district going through a petition process, while I agree, I think EMS district ultimately is kind of the end goal. I think that the challenges with that and the timing of that, that's going to be a ways out before we can actually get through that petition process and get to the point where there's actually funding, a district available, and then funding available for that district. And so I agree with you on the EMS district, that's the way to go. However, at this time, the shortfall's coming, and at the end of November, we no longer have a contract in place. And so, that's our request right now, is help us cover this gap, and help us, whatever you can come up with to help us with, whether it's providing us with in-kind housing locations, station locations without an expense charged to that. Anything of that nature, I think, will help us offset the costs. And we're not just coming to Alpine, of course. We're going to each of the towns and asking them for the exact same thing. And we're going to the county and asking them for the exact same thing. So the county obviously would have the biggest amount to come up with. But yeah, we're hopeful that everybody will come to the table. And what we're really looking for is partnership in this. We're looking for people who, we want to create solutions. We want to continue to provide the same level of care that we've been able to provide. And Ryan mentioned, we've had status zeros, but we've also been able to significantly improve the response times and the service level that we've been able to provide over the last 5 years. And our goal is to continue to do that. We just need partners to help us with it.
Okay. I have just a couple more things, and then I'll open it up to everyone else. It sounds like Shane might have something to add. Let me tell you the reason why it doesn't make sense for the town to get involved in additional funding. For one, in my opinion, it's double taxation. The property taxes are already going towards paying for these 3 mills. The town of Alpine has already done in-kind support for 30 some odd years by letting you guys use the land, and thank goodness you used it and used it effectively. We now are the beneficiary of you guys doing that because we have the building over there, it's on town property, and we're renting it out to another provider, actually, to a women's health provider. So I think that's good. My personal opinion, 3 mills that you guys collect should go directly for EMS. That's my opinion. You guys come up with your own metrics, how you want to use it. So I think it's a very steep hill to climb to convince not only the town of Alpine, but everyone else in the county, and especially the county commissioners. I think it's highly, highly unlikely that you'll get any funding. If for some reason everyone got together and said, yes, we want to do it, me personally, my feeling is that our requirement would be to have a seat on the board of Star Valley Health, so we had a say in how that money was spent. The other thing is like, I'd have to see like all the financials, all in depth, like how every dollar is spent. Maybe there's ways that we could, strategize to cut costs here or there. As far as in kind, like you mentioned, housing, like the town of Alpine is, at least under my administration, we're looking for housing solutions. So maybe there's something that can come up in the future. Maybe you've heard about, a potential project on some town land that we own. Maybe in the future, there's something that, you guys could provide housing for someone, your EMS or whatever over there at that point. I'm interested to hear what the rest of the communities feel like and what the county commissioners feel like, but in general, I would say it's going to be an uphill battle for sure. But with that being said, I'll open it up to Ms. Scafidi first, if you had anything to add.
Yeah, I think I had emailed Riley and Monica this morning. One of the things for me is I'm a numbers person. So I was hoping we could get 4 years of detailed records or financials from EMS, because I think that's one of the things that is the kind of the gaping hole. We keep saying numbers, but it would be nice to see kind of a profit and loss. I know it's obviously in the loss column, but that would be very, very helpful just for processing the data. And then secondly, and I've gone to the commissioners on this, from 2021 to now, the county is getting 30 million more in levied property tax. So where it was like 47 million in 2021, 2024 went up to almost 80 million. So what I think I am in agreement, we can't double tax our poor little town at this point. And secondly, the mill levies have gone up at the same rate that this huge gain in property tax has happened post-COVID. So I think there's just a lot of dynamics. I've been trying to help find cheaper rentals for EMS. I've been putting your guys in touch with property managers, all of that. But I think I would love to know what the options are for teaming up with the fire department and not really charging. If we already are giving a mill levy to the fire department, can we take that off the table since the town gives them such a great rental rate? So those are kind of the more comments than questions. I guess back to the financials, would love to get, a view on those.
Yeah.
But then secondly, I think our property taxes have been commensurate, even higher than most states across this country for going up. The legislature finally reined it in, but 30% over 2 years, I would have hoped that money would close the gap for Star Valley Health.
Okay, thanks, Ms.
Thank you.
Mr. Larson, do you have anything to add?
So for those who don't know, I ran Alpine EMS for several years, and it is definitely a not profitable business by any means whatsoever. This is a service to the community, just as the fire, just as sheriffs, and in a small community at this, there's no profit. So it's if our community decides that this is what they desire, this is what they want, unfortunately, Wyoming does not consider EMS as an emergency service that needs to be funded. It really comes down to when things go bad, if you dial 911 as somebody, you want somebody, a professional there to come and help. If you could go into how you've upped the service from taking over from a volunteer service, I think that'd be helpful. That would explain to some of the costs.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. So at the time that I became a part of EMS, Town of Thane and Town of Alpine were primarily staffed by EMTs, EMT level, and
Could you go
Mike,
into
correct
the
me.
different levels?
What's that?
Just the different levels real quick.
So as it stands, there's EMT basic. They can provide basic life support. Ryan, do you want to come talk about the levels?
Otherwise-
He's gonna,
Yeah.
yeah.
Otherwise known as BLS.
Yeah, so I came here in 2022, January 1st, so post-merger. So all the pre-volunteer stuff, I'm just kind of working on myth and lore. But the EMS in Wyoming reflects a little bit about what EMS in the nation looks like, but it does have its own little few quirks. So an EMT basic, entry-level EMT position, do a lot of driving on the ambulance. They are able to provide basic life support, bandaging, CPR, stuff like that. Next level up is an EMT advanced. Now we start introducing medications that they're able to give for conditions like cardiac chest pain, continuing with the CPR, some airway supportive measures and things like that. Wyoming, which is different than most of the nation, that introduces what we call an intermediate level. This was popular nationwide sort of in the 80s and early 90s, kind of fell off nationwide, but Wyoming still recognizes the intermediate scope. We now have what we call advanced airway life support, so there are different apparatuses they could put in somebody's airway to prevent vomiting, things like that. They can do IVs, then they can give a whole host of medications, including some medications that would be used in a cardiac arrest. The next level is the paramedic level, sort of the top tier level for EMS. At this level, it's the whole gamut, advanced airway support, advanced cardio support. There are things that we can do with the defibrillator, kind of like that AD over there. For different heart rhythms that can be reduced in the field, there are certain very slow rhythms and certain very fast rhythms that if you find it at somebody's house, it could be lethal before you make it to the hospital. Those can all be dealt with in the field, including pain management, analgesics, and different things you can do for musculoskeletal issues. So when I first got here, Star Valley Health had inherited mostly EMT basics, a few advanced, and one or two intermediates from Thane. Star Valley Health put it on an in-house schooling for EMTs. Just to let you guys know, this came at a great expense to the hospital. We completely lost money on this, but education for EMTs, especially the higher levels, is very, very hard to get. So we'd be talking about like driving to Cheyenne or Laramie. So we were able to take those EMT basics into an A level, into an I level, and then the hospitals incurred the expense of sending people to paramedic school. We've had to do that by sending them back east to Boston, and we were able to find a program in Idaho. So they continue to invest in the paramedic level.
How long is the education for a paramedic?
Right now, at the school in Idaho, it takes an EMT who is already an advanced or an intermediate, an additional 2 years to complete the education and the sort of on-the-job experience. Post the paramedic level, if you look at like helicopters, flight programs is what's called a critical care level. This sort of changes your mentality of how you deal with patients, sort of in the acute 10 to 20 minute problems into the 4 or 5 hour problems. It also deals with multiple medications, ventilators, kind of all the fun stuff you see sort of like in an ICU, and we have invested, and we now have 8 paramedics that are at the critical care level.
And with the critical care level, does that make a difference on transports?
It makes a huge difference on transfers, but honestly, the biggest difference is actually what we do in the 911 setting here. So my experience is I had 20 years in a very urban setting, 1 million people, 7 hospitals. And so when I came here to Wyoming and I show up on my first real call was a snowmobile versus car. I show up, I have a person who's in a very serious wreck, multi-system trauma, they're bleeding out. I have an airway issue I can deal with. I have an uncontrolled hemorrhage I have to deal with. I have a patient that starts seizing initially on scene, and I'm by myself. That's the other thing they don't talk about here. Where I came from, I could have 10 people show up on every call within 2 minutes. If I needed a second ambulance, I had a second ambulance. If I had a car wreck that involved 4 cars, I could have 5 ambulances there in 3 minutes. Unlimited resources. We just don't have the luxury of that here in Wyoming. Also, we have the fact that we cover a huge amount of the backcountry, the whole Grays River Range and into Idaho, we have to support. So that means if I get a call of a hunter who fell in a crevasse up on Prairie Peak, I have to deal with them for 12 to 15 hours. Now, we often look at critical care as a sort of like amazing luxury, and I'll tell you right now, it is amazing to have this luxury here, but that is a very real thing that we have to treat patients here is I have to think very long term, and if you're by yourself or just with your partner, or if we're lucky to have a firefighter or 2 or search and rescue member up there, I have to manage a very, very complex patient, often without contact with the hospital, just based on geography. So we expect our paramedics, and especially our critical care medics, to work very independently, and that's sort of what that education fosters, is that independent mindset and enough knowledge base that you can manage a patient long-term very competently with limited resources.
And the skill set that you guys provide currently, it's 24/7, 365?
Yeah, so currently we have 3 stations between Afton, Thane, and Alpine. They are manned 24 hours a day. They are paramedic and generally an EMT at each station.
Thank you.
Sure.
So this is what we have to deal with. If our community decides that this is the kind of service that they want, 24/7, 365, for when bad things happen, if they call 911, there's a real cost there. How we get to that, ideally in an ideal world, it's Idaho. They've got EMS districts. They're able to put stuff together like that. Wyoming, that'd be great. How we solve that in the short term, that's a big question. Again, it just, for me, it comes down to, if you want this kind of protection and service, there's a cost associated with it, and it's up to the valley to pay for that cost. How we go about paying for that cost, that's the question. When I ran it, it was all volunteer. It was mostly BLS with some ALS, so advanced life support, but it was never paramedics until, I think the hospital hired the first paramedic in 2012 or 13.
Yeah, I think would have been about 2012, because he was here when I got here.
Yeah, and that was one paramedic running out of the hospital. And for our service, they did a lot of work with our service up here in Alpine, as far as training and just the overall experience. And for me, being in the back of an ambulance when a paramedic showed up, that took a lot of weight off of my shoulders. And to see the difference in training, professionalism, I mean, it goes a long way from that BLS EMTB, which is 180 hours. Is that still the case?
Yeah, that's roughly about.
Okay, so 180 hours of training versus 2 years of formal classroom training. You know, there's a difference, and that's where, if you're looking at the costs, that's where the costs go to. Town of Alpine prior has supported, when EMS was strictly through the town of Alpine, it was, I want to say 20,000 for every year that I was here, and then maybe the last year was 16,000. The last budget year that I went, so we would go to the town of Alpine and we'd go to the county, because that's where our service call volume was. And the town of Alpine was generally the most generous. We had town of Alpine, we had county, and then we had a contract with Bonneville County because we covered Creamery Road, basically for the Creamery Road, Jackknife area, even though we covered out to the dam sometimes, but mostly Indian Creek, yeah. Town of Alpine was always the most generous with, like I say, about 20,000. Then came the county, and every year the county went, I think the max the county gave when at my tenure was around 24,000, and that went to 20,000, 16,000 to 12,000. So much so that at my last county budget meeting, I said, okay, $12,000, so do we just stop running in the county when that 12,000 is up? How would you like that? You got to think out of the box. Maybe have you tried that? Like, oh, what do you mean, like maybe free housing? How about free labor? We could do a fundraiser. Oh wait, we're already doing all of that. So again, it just comes back to, this is a service like any emergency service that costs money. If you want professional help that's trained, that's ready to take you, it comes at a cost. And that's what we need to decide as a community.
Speaking of that, let's just talk numbers real quick, Trevor. So $1.7 million divided by approximately 15,000 residents in North Lincoln County comes up to, we estimated around $114 per person.
Mm-hmm.
How many people do we have currently in the town of Alpine? You remember those numbers?
1360.
Okay, so you take,
Used to be my address.
all right, so we take 1360 times $114 is $155,000. So I think that in general is the number that we have to talk about when we get kind of down to the nitty gritty. But is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, just that 155,000 again could come from helping us cover housing to, you know, we're open to ideas. I understand everybody's got budget challenges and we don't want to throw this on anybody last minute, but we just hope that, you know, you guys will take it strongly into consideration, and appreciate your comments. It is a high level of service, and we appreciate the opportunity to do it, so.
I appreciate you coming. I wanted to give Mike just a couple minutes if he wanted to say anything, and then I'll go to public comment. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, and I guess I'm a little confused. Then are you guys going to go to the county per person? Because then we're carrying the weight.
They would go to the county as well, and the county has the vast majority of people, but they would be asking for over $1 million from the county. So that's what
Okay, and then
is.
hopefully, again, I don't want to use fear to influence the public. I really think as a council, we really need to see the financial impact and then let the residents evaluate that fact. But
Totally agree.
I'll let Mike
Yeah.
go now.
Thanks, Shay. Go ahead, Mike. And by the way, we spent a lot of time on this, so I want to just kind of, you know, we'll put a bow on it here, but.
Okay, so you're probably wondering why I'm even involved with this, but I was with the EMS back when all this stuff was going. I've been an EMT for over 20 years. And since it dissolved, I'm basically the only person that knows the history still that's over there. And I just need to clarify some of the questions that were brought up in some of those community meetings and what people are asking me about to explain things. So Jeremy's absolutely right that we would have to go to ask for funding, and the county would always give us less and less. And it kind of got frustrating because they said if that's not enough, then you could
Go flip pancakes.
sell pancakes. So it didn't really settle good with us because most of the people we served were in the county. A lot of things were brought up too that if it was essential service, we wouldn't have this problem. There was a statement made that if it was essential service, it'd be funded by the state. The fire department's been essential service forever. We don't get any money from the state.
Yeah.
And before we had to form a district, which I'll explain later, but we didn't get any special funding because we were essential. It was still a struggle to fund us because Alpine EMS and Alpine Fire were one organization, a standalone organization on their own. They weren't attached to a town, and they did both things. So once we determined that we couldn't get funding from the county and get support, that's why we had to go to a district. Another discrepancy in the meetings we had too is the commissioner was saying, well, then have the EMS be part of the fire department. State statute says the mill levy is solely to support fire department or agencies supporting fire protection. You can't absorb an EMS system into the fire district. Otherwise, we would have done that and we wouldn't have had a problem at all.
Right, we learned that, and that's when Alpine Fire EMS had to split, and I started Alpine EMS as a 501c3.
Yeah. And so then it evolved to, in November of 2024, the CEO was Charles Button, and Mike Hungsetter came to Alpine and wanted to take over the EMS system for the purpose of being able to obtain 100% of Medicare money. They said because we existed and they existed, they were leaving $500,000 on the table. The community didn't want that at all because, like I said, they created the EMS system and the fire system as a community. And they didn't want to turn it over. They had pride in the organization. They didn't want to turn it over and lose it. So basically, we just kept thriving well, not thriving, but struggling to make it exist. And mostly because it was a matter of community pride. And plus, the pride of the volunteers at Spencer. Because one thing Jeremy didn't really mention is the time it takes you to get your first certification. You got continuing education constantly with so many hours of each subject, and then you got to get tested. And so it's a very hard thing to maintain volunteers when you're asking so much of them.
Sorry, Mike, and I'll also add that for Alpine specifically, those volunteers that would show up to a call, you're generally looking at taking 3 hours out of your day. Just if you're doing a transport, didn't matter if it was to Afton or to Jackson, 3 hours were gone out of your day.
Okay, so then in May of 2017, I have copies of these contracts, but we were presented with the contract again, and that was when the hospital was doing, at that time, they're still Star Valley Medical Center. They were doing a study, and it had said that possibly only needed 2 stations based on that study, and but they came back and were wanting to take us over to get the Medicare money. And then November that same year, 2017, they formed a contract with Alpine EMS that if we wanted to get higher level, so we had a few advanced and normal EMTs, but if we wanted to get a higher level of service, maybe a paramedic if they had them back then at 17, I don't know, we had to subscribe a yearly fee of $12,768 to get assistance from Star Valley Medical Center, which seems to me contraindication of wanting things, services in kind, because as a volunteer ambulance service, we were bringing them business. And they were going to charge us to come and service their customer. So it seems kind of mixed that we're being charged to bring them customer and ask for a higher level of service for their customer. So that was strange. So that was a contract that went on. Okay, so then 2021, okay, that's when things are falling apart around here. We were losing volunteers. Thane had already lost daytime volunteers for 6 months. Responses into Thane were divided up with Alpine and Afton, so we were covering Thane to Prater Canyon, and Afton was covering the Prater Canyon on that side, because there was nobody, accessible, and volunteerism was going down. As for us, we were losing volunteers, and it was a struggle because we'd have the EMTs. We were losing EMTs, and then we were using the fire department volunteers to drive the ambulances. So we could see that what was happening to Thane was going to happen here. So it took me a long time and us to convince the citizens that
This
is the best thing you can get, a paramedic 24/7. And of course, they didn't want to lose the ownership and the control of the system. Like, we're not going to turn it over to the hospital. But we had to convince them that if we don't do this, it could possibly go away, just like we're talking about right now. So we went into that agreement. So I can really stress that this level of service that we have from the ambulance service is absolutely great. It's so far better than what we could do before. And it's much more organized, and the personnel are easy to work with and good to work with and take pride in their jobs and stuff. So all this stuff is not an attack on the service that they have and their members. There is questions that people have been asking me that I have to relay at this meeting too. There's questions about the budget, of course, because if you go on the website with the county, this year the mill levy, that doesn't count the draw that they'll get in June, they received $1,571,149. That's their 3 mills that goes into EMS system. What people are having trouble with is on the cover sheet for that, when they submit the bill to the county, it says, let me get it right. The mill levy is specifically designated by the hospital to offset losses of EMS services provided to North Lincoln County. That's on their cover sheet for their budget for this year and last year's proposal for a budget for that mill levy. When in those community meetings, Dan said that we can use it for whatever we want. So there's a question about if the towns in the county give the hospital money, what is it actually going to be used for? Because here it says it's going to be used specifically for losses for EMS services. Is that going to be true with money they receive from towns and county? And also, if that money was used for only EMS, how bad would EMS be in the red if this was all used for just EMS rather than OB and what other stuff that you said? So those are questions. Also, they're asking what's the chances of following up on that government rural health care that the state received? What's the chances of getting some help from that? And I believe that's all the questions that I have to, and I'll answer anything that you might have.
I don't know if I have any questions for Mike, but appreciate you being here. I'll open it up to Ms. Oceani if she had something to add.
I have a question.
Okay.
So my question is, why did the county commissioners, I guess I didn't read that article carefully enough, why did they reject putting the district formation would have been on the ballot this November if they had approved it, correct? It wasn't just a blanket approval of a district that would increase our property taxes or reallocate them. It was an issue of getting it on the ballot, is that correct?
What it would have done is they would have started the EMS district themselves. That with a vote, they would have started the district. And then it would have gone to the ballot to be funded.
Okay, all right.
Does that answer it, Trevor? Does that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I was going to say.
So why didn't they? You'll want to come up. Why did they?
So I don't want to speak for the county commissioners, but from what I can remember, they felt like that it was not their responsibility to create an EMS district, and they wanted that to come from the people.
More of the petition process.
They wanted to go through the petition process versus having it come from them organizing and creating the district.
Correct.
And it was a 2-to-1 vote.
Yep.
And that's a shame, because the people have their opportunity to speak when it's on the ballot. And
That's exactly what we said.
I have some experience with this. Well, first of all, I want to just say how lucky I know we are to have Mike as our fire chief, and we have always, even with our volunteers, always had wonderful emergency services in Alpine, and frankly, the whole valley, thanks mostly to volunteers. When Ron Dean was working in the petition process to get a fire district started, I helped him with the final, get those letters, petitions, individual. It had to be individual landowners submitting a letter. And then you got your percentage, and I helped him get that across the line. And having a fire district has been the best thing for Alpine, because the firemen work hard enough as volunteers. It enabled us to have Mike be a hired fire chief, which has brought a lot of stability to the organization. So I guess, but I also agree that the individual towns shouldn't bear the burden, because you're servicing people outside of the towns and the counties. So I'm really happy with the increased level of service. I think all of the suggestions of a closer look at financials, my personal preference would have been, when you saw you were having troubles like in the first year or two, you maybe would have come forward then, but it's all a process, and I understand that. But is there any way that, well, first of all, I would highly recommend you consider the petition process to form a district if that's what's necessary. And I know it's very labor intensive and cumbersome, but Ron pretty much did the whole thing on his own, really, and he got it across the line, and it's made all the difference, because doing the fundraising was burdensome. Is there a chance you can go back to the county commissioners to get them to reconsider their decision about putting it on the November ballot? What's the deadline for it?
Too late.
Too late?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
All right.
the best opportunity we'd have with the county commissioners would be to go to them again next year.
And that's what I would say, and perhaps not even wait till next year, because would they do a special election? Would they do a special election ballot if they did?
If the petition, and Trevor, help me if I mess this up, but if we did the petition, I don't know exactly what the time frame is when you have to have the petition done. Monica might be able to help with this, because she just spoke to April the other day. But if we started that process now, there's a chance that we could have a special election in as early as May, because it could be whenever in the year,
Right.
correct?
Yeah, April would schedule that based on once she received a petition to review, she would review it and then schedule it. It could happen at any time.
Right.
Once the petition was complete.
So perhaps the solution is a short-term contract to try to address short-term shortfalls and not have an obligation for long-term. Health, safety, and welfare are the top priorities of government, and I think we get a little lost in the weeds sometimes of how we spend our money, and I would much rather, I'd like a accounting of what you've done, not that I'm, but transparency, and so sometimes fresh eyes can be helpful, but I'd much rather see our money fairly going to emergency services to support you than consultants. I think we've been very heavy on our expenses with consultants, and this board is very clear that I feel that way, and I appreciate your understanding of that perspective. So I guess that's all I have to say on this topic, and thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
And thank you all.
Mike, did you have one more thing, Dad?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Another thing was brought to me. So in 2014, when we were pursued, not because of financial difficulties of the hospital, but to get the full billing and stuff, that was 12 years ago. And people are asking, it's been 12 years, has there ever been a strategic plan for housing and a garage for your people, or has it just been ignored for those 12 years?
This is a great question. I don't feel like it's been ignored. I just feel like the majority of our funding for EMS has gone towards salaries and wages for the staff. It's no secret that that's where the majority of the funding has to go for servicing EMS. We have looked at different plans for, buildings and capital investment in EMS, but we have never actually been able to get anything to come to fruition with that, just because of the losses of EMS. We've felt like if we can manage with doing rental agreements, and we have kind of a modge podge that we've put together, and it works. It's not great, but it does work for us, and so we have tried to just focus on being able to fund the staffing of the service and not necessarily the capital investment in facilities. So.
That's great. I have one more question for you, and then we'll move on to our actual budget. The contract's up in November. Let's just say Star Valley Health decides no more, we're done. You would have to come back to the old Alpine EMS, or we would be tasked with developing our own EMS again and taking it over, correct? Mm-hmm. And then the things like the ambulances that we gave you and all that stuff, would that come back to our new EMS?
I can't speak to that because I don't know what the useful life of that equipment is. I think
that it in service anymore.
Some of the equipment we've replaced. I don't think we have any of the ambulances that we received when we took over.
Gotcha.
Alpine, and so. Yeah, I think that's accurate. If we were to stop the service, well, I guess my understanding is EMS is not an essential service, so nobody has to provide it.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't think that's going to go back.
I mean, that's exactly it. From the state of Wyoming, because EMS is not considered non-essential service, communities don't have to do anything.
And even if it was, you wouldn't get good financing because I couldn't even get good financing for the fire department as essential service.
Yeah, it's really difficult in Wyoming, but.
So if we lost it, it wouldn't be here. We can't ever come back to it. It would take a year to train volunteers and find volunteers, and it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it would essentially die on this side of the valley, for sure, and I don't think anybody wants that. So I appreciate you coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's not going to be any decisions made, but we're going to discuss it. You're more than welcome to stay, but, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things.
Okay, all right.
But if anyone up here, or anyone that's not here currently has any questions, they can reach out to you directly, right?
Yeah.
Okay, in the community as well, reach out.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep, please reach out if you have questions. Yeah, we're looking for a partnership is
Yeah.
all we're doing, so.
I guess the last thing that I would say is, I think another step that you could take in the interim is have an advisory board, which I think you already have with the community, whatever
Yeah.
our board is called. And then really dive into the financials and see if bringing all the community members you've already brought forward can come up with some great idea to help. I would just think that's the next logical step, no matter what. So,
Thank you all.
all right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Trevor. Okay, well, thanks, Mike, for being here. We'll move on to our budget, and we'll start, Miss Monica, where would you like to start?
Okay. So I did create some...
Monica, excuse me, real quick.
Yeah.
Just in case anyone needs to use the restroom, whatever, please feel free
Oh,
to,
yeah.
the restroom's just in the other room. There's also bottled waters if anyone would like to, but we'll just kind of keep it loose, and if anyone needs to, you're not bothering us if you get up.
So for those of you in the audience, yellow is general fund. And so we're going to start there, I think. So I did create, real quickly, before the meeting, some reports on, I dictated my overall thoughts on where I landed. Now, there's still, clearly, the final draft of the budget will be of both the 2027 proposed and the 2026 amended budgets, will be in ordinance format at our meeting on June 23rd for the town council. The ordinances themselves are shortened to just overall departments. So they don't have all the hundreds of individual line items, but, so the departments themselves are, where they're totaled on here, so like total revenue. The general fund is actually, fairly stable, like it is.
I have a question for you. Would it be helpful if Riley just read the report that you developed, and then we can get
That
it in the
would be
record?
great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Ms.
Thank you,
Administrator,
Riley.
if you don't mind, just reading that, and then we have this stuff posted on our website as well, but if you read it real quick, and then we could,
Of course.
okay, thank you.
The proposed fiscal year 27 general fund budget projects net revenue over expenditures in the positive with an estimated surplus of approximately $66,150. The general fund currently has a strong cash position with just over $2.5 million in general fund cash. Overall, the town of Alpine has approximately $4.9 million in total funds when considering bank accounts, class, CDs, and other cash or cash equivalent accounts. Property tax revenue in the fiscal year 27 budget was calculated based on the assumption that eligible taxpayers will take advantage of available property tax discounts. One of the more notable revenue items in the general fund is building permit and development-related income. Building permit revenue is projected to show approximately a 50% increase over last fiscal year and approximately 100% increase over fiscal year 25. Staff has worked hard to ensure that building permit fees cover the town's cost of providing building inspection services, engineering review, and related development review processes. At this time, the Building and Development Department is fully paying for itself. In other words, the growth occurring within the town of Alpine is covering the cost of these services required to support that growth. Staff will continue to monitor and analyze these fees to ensure they remain sufficient to consistently cover the town's costs. Grant income in the general fund includes travel and tourism grants for events and projects such as Mountain Days, Winter Jubilee, 4th of July, Music in the Mountains, and other travel and tourism-related activities. Grant income also includes approximately $300,000 in Safe Streets for All reimbursements. That project is just getting underway, so the majority of the reimbursement activity is expected to occur in fiscal year 27, although a small amount of expense has already been incurred in the current fiscal year. The fiscal year 27 general fund budget includes approximately $290,000 in Safe Streets for All expenditures, which are expected to be reimbursed through the grant. Capital expenditures also include $45,000 to used service body pickup, which was originally included in the fiscal year 26 budget and has been pushed forward into fiscal year 27. The budget also includes the Civic Center generator project, for which the town has received a grant funding. The town is evaluating the Grays River Road paving project. The preliminary construction estimate is approximately $750,000, with an additional $73,000 estimated for engineering, construction, administration, and observation. My recommendation is that the town include the engineering amount in the current fiscal year budget so the project can be further defined, prepared for bidding, and evaluated for final construction cost. The town has received initial loan figures for paving. However, those figures were based on a lower estimated project amount and may not fully reflect the full costs of the Grays River Road project. The current paving loan is scheduled to mature in fiscal year 27, but based on the estimated fiscal year 26 general fund cash surplus, my recommendation is to pay off the existing paving loan immediately at the June 23rd council meeting. I further recommend budgeting approximately $80,000 in fiscal year 27 for a potential new loan payment related to the Grays River Road paving project, while allowing staff to continue evaluating the actual project cost and financing options before bringing a final recommendation back to council. The net effect of the Grays River Road project on the fiscal year 27 budget is estimated to be approximately $40,000. A second recommendation is related to the Land Use Development Code rewrite. The full budget amount for that project is approximately $171,500. Council could consider placing this item on the June 23rd agenda, paying approximately half of the project cost immediately from the current fiscal year budget, then paying the remaining half in fiscal year 27. This approach would allow the town to use available cash from the current fiscal year and push the remaining project cost into next fiscal year, rather than absorbing the full amount in one fiscal year. A process change has also been made for vehicle-related costs. Beginning in fiscal year 27, all vehicle repairs, maintenance, and fuel costs will be run through the general ledger accounts instead of specifically created for those costs. The actual expenses will then be allocated among the departments appropriately. This will create a cleaner process on the back end and reduce the need for staff to itemize those costs so heavily throughout the year. Overall, the general fund is in a stable position. The budget includes routine operations, grant-supported projects, and several capital or planning-related items that council may want to move forward strategically. My primary recommendations are to pay off the existing paving loan at the June 23rd meeting, budget for a potential new Grays River Road paving loan payment in fiscal year 27, include the Grays River Road engineering cost in the current fiscal year, and consider splitting the Land Use Development Code rewrite costs between the current fiscal year and fiscal year 27.
Thank you for reading that. Yeah.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
And with my
Will you turn on your mic?
And with my voice, I could never do it.
Yeah.
But
Thank you for that. Now, right before we started, there was a change that you noted.
Yes. So, right before this meeting, Riley was in a meeting with the Safe Streets for All people. They are actually running very much ahead of schedule. So we can anticipate them sending us invoices for May and June of about $93,000. So that's going to change. Right now, my projected 2026 excess is 297, so that's going to reduce that to closer to
So
200.
where we're looking at, so everyone knows, line 237 on the yellow page, where you see in column D,
Thank you.
FYI 2026 proposed amended, where it says $10,000, you're saying that that will actually be
It'll go to 103,000.
103?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It'll be an additional 93. However, that also means the $290,000 on the same line in under
Right,
C
at the bottom.
will be reduced by 90 $3,000.
No, under D would go less $90,000.
Yes.
93, so it would be 294, 100, I think. 294,100, something in that range. I believe.
Wait a minute.
On
So
that.
I'm talking about 237 in line C.
Lined, you mean column
Am I-
C?
Yeah, column C, yeah, sorry.
297, right, so, but,
That 290 is going to be reduced to 287, hold on, 197.
197.
Yes, sir.
Right, but what it's going to change is column D, the 10,000 on that project, it's going to go.
As well, that one's going to go up to 103,000.
Right, so what that's going to do is affect your bottom line on 251.
Yep.
We need to reduce that.
That will be 294, 100.
No, it'll be 194.
194, thank you.
Okay,
There's a difference between 3,000.
right, it's a little bit, but not bad. So, okay, so our bottom line, Shay, I'm sorry if that was hard to keep track of, but with that change, that would be in column D
gonna
on
be
251,
200.
that would be $194,100 in that range, approximately. So now, with that in
294,000.
mind, before we move on to any of the other funds,
But the 66, 150 also has to be changed.
where's that?
On
What line?
251, column C.
Right.
That
So-
goes up by $93,000.
Yeah,
So, because it's just shifting between the 2 years.
66,
159, 150.
say it again?
What'd you say?
159, 150.
159, 150, okay. Because we reduced that, 150, okay. My mic wasn't on, so sorry, I apologize. Actually, this one was on, so that was probably captured. So that brings us to projects that we are interested in moving in the budget, based on, of course, we're not making any decisions here, but Ms. Scafidi and Mr. Larson, what's your appetite towards paying off Grays River Road loan, which is approximately $40,000,
41.
$41,000? There might be a little bit of less because it's interest.
Yeah,
And stuff.
yeah, I'll get a payoff.
And then moving forward on the Grays River Road project.
For me, I'm always up for paying off debt, so, yeah.
Ms. Scafidi, do you have any?
Yeah, I'm fine on that, but I think the Grays River Road, weren't we going to get more detailed RFPs out?
Yeah, so I think what we would do is we would want to contract with Sunrise as soon as possible because we have not received a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we can get additional RFPs for the design. However, what I think my request would be is that we still need to essentially budget for the project as though it's going to happen. That doesn't make the project happen. We do know that based on the estimate that we have, the engineering and construction services is about $73,000, and that they are estimating the project at about $820,000. And so we could budget those things. Of course, the plan would be to borrow the money to pay for the road, so the actual 800 and some $1,000 would be a net zero effect on the budget, where what we're increasing is, are we going to borrow the engineering money? Do we pay for it in cash? You know, those sort of things. But I think the goal here is to place it in the budget so that staff can do all the work that we need to do to be able to allow you guys to make an effective decision once we have all the information.
Well, and the other thing is spending that money, what is it, $73,000 or whatever, that's something that, it's almost like an asset. Like whether we use it later this year or next year or 5 years.
Yeah, and
down
the
road.
construction services and the bidding process would not happen unless you guys decide to let the project. So the actual design of the road is a much smaller piece of that. I feel like it was about $37,000-ish.
Yep.
And then the other was construction service on-site, watching the work happen, and the RFP process to get bids for the project.
So are you recommending in the current fiscal year budget to spend the, whatever, approximately $30,000 for the design?
Yes.
Okay. So, back to our final numbers, we've got just short of $200,000. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Now, I see 66,000. Am I, are you trying to use up this
Yeah,
fiscal
so,
year 20?
since we have the surplus this year of, well, now around $200,000, I'm saying my recommendation that goes along with Monica's would be to, for one, pay off the $40,000. So approximately 40,000 minus the 194, so now you're down to 154, 100 roughly, and then spend approximately $30,000 on the engineering on that bid from Sunrise.
Yeah.
So you get down to 124,000 surplus.
But are we not going out to bid on what engineer would be the least expensive on the grade?
Yeah, so we've asked Sunrise to bid, and they've done that, and it's around 30,000, and then we've asked Jorgensen to bid, and they have declined. They said they're too busy, basically. So, but I wouldn't anticipate their bid being lower than Sunrise's, to be honest. So I think $30,000 for the design is probably a pretty good number. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be my recommendation, to use some of that surplus money. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
It sounds good. Do we also have we budgeted in professional fees for any upcoming needs for the next fiscal year
You talk about in the general fund?
in the general fund?
I bet 90,000 in administration.
Okay, so,
How much is there for that, for professional services?
I think she's budgeted 90,000 in the
Okay, I
general fund.
feel like we might be double that.
Yeah.
I guess I am a little nervous. And then I
Double it
know
for
I
what?
saw for the Grays River Road, that loan would be 93,000 a year based on the 700,000, so we'd be probably hitting 100 grand on the loan if we did it.
I agree, which would be, we're currently at 40,000, it would be increasing at 60,000. But,
Yeah, I mean, and again, I mean, out of this general fund, I want more stuff for townspeople.
Yep.
So, I kind of get sad, all our consulting dollars, but the Grays at least is giving residents some viable part of the pie of getting that
yeah,
done.
well, that'll make a lot of
Yeah,
people
but I do
happy.
think, I am a little nervous, as Jeremy just said, on professional services.
Well,
Yeah,
I guess,
I feel like that should be double.
I would agree with Shay, I would double
are
that.
you thinking about legal? Because
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I understand.
Is that under professional services?
It is. It does get built to there, but that's going to how will we book? We need to talk about how we book it. Riley and I'll talk about that. Because I don't know if it gets,
It may not
Where
be
it-
next fiscal
it may
year, it
not-
could be 2 fiscal years.
well,
Right, but we need to be prepared for it.
but I don't even know that it ends up in the professional services line item. So, but I've got it and we'll figure it out. before-
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
that,
you want it to be another 100,000 or another 90,000? What are you thinking?
so right now you have it as 60,000?
I have 90,000 under administrative, professional services.
Yeah, I would go to at least 190.
Okay. I'll add 100.
So is that taking our number down to take 100 off the 124, so now we're down to 24,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then whatever left over, I'd put that into Kitty for Grays River Road.
Contingency, or what?
Yeah, just start to grow that pot first so we can do repairs for Grays River Road in the future.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that. Ms. Scafidi, does that sound all right to you?
Yeah, on that legal side.
Yeah. Okay. That
Okay,
sounds good.
so just so I'm clear, can you repeat what we're doing for me?
Okay, so we're going to pay off the loan.
Out of, that's this fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay.
So pay off the loan of $40,000 approximately
Okay.
at the June 23rd meeting. $30,000 to pay for engineering only of the Grace River Road.
It's
project.
39,000.
I'm sorry?
39,000.
Okay, so
I pulled that.
39,000, which reduces our other number even more, so.
Okay.
39,000, and then just pad the professional services.
With that, with the balance?
With the $100,000.
Yep,
And
okay.
then whatever's left over, we'll just have to see whatever the surplus is at the end of the year. I think the recommendation from town council would be to start setting that money aside for future.
And is this all fiscal year 2026 leftover that we're talking
Yes,
about?
correct.
All right, I wanted to make sure.
Correct.
Okay.
And then on 27, you've made that change, so it looks like we have a surplus of around 160,000. I don't know what that means as far as projects for next year.
So no, that's water. Yeah. So the only thing that we have in this fund that is not getting done, that I think that has circled back over and over again, is the
Land use
development code. And so, other than that, I think the things that we needed to get done, generators and those things, they're all in here,
Yep.
so.
What's the appetite currently if we have a surplus of $160,000 to spend on updating the land use development code for next year?
For me personally, it'd be the no frills, just kind of get it, it needs to be done. I feel for P and Z. You
So
know,
hire the consultant.
we've been doing it in-house,
Yeah.
and it's gotten us to where we're at today, still talking about it, still not making
Yep.
sense. But I would just stick to the no frills contract of, what is it, OC or, what is it?
OPS,
OPS.
which was around $85,000 or something in that range, I think.
In my mind, I think 100, but I don't know why that number's
Yeah, I
in
want
there.
to say it was 111.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you're right.
You do have to account for, if you go with OPS strategies, you would also have to buy the software system that they would use to support the rewrite.
But that probably could be done in another fiscal year, maybe?
The work could be done now, and then you could
There's still that cost.
do the digitization. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, have you quoted out what different providers would charge for that digitization?
I think Gina talked to him. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's something she's been researching.
So the options that we're discussing is do not the lesser, but the one that costs less.
One that
for
costs
route-
less and
But we will have to eventually
You
get
get a
software.
platform to support it in the future, but you're right, it does break up the expenses over time, because you could have them do the rewrite now and then.
And then
get the-
digitize it later.
Yeah.
I mean, there may be a cost savings and a time savings and a stress savings to do it all at one time, but I don't think I think what's important is that the land use development code gets updated. That's what's important.
You can also shop platforms.
and that's
Yeah.
what I'm hearing
For-
from
yeah.
PNC.
Yeah.
So how much would you like?
Ms. Scafidi, I think I already know what your answer is on this, but I'll give you a chance to comment on that.
Yeah, I'm the same comment that I felt before.
Okay.
So I just think I don't know why surplus is such a bad word just to have money in our account.
Well, keep
but
in-
yeah.
keep in mind, we already have $2.5 million in this account.
And, yeah, we're not spending any of that.
Right, so,
No, I know.
Yep.
I know, but I get very nervous with what's happening, and I know we can't move it to sewer, but, I mean, that'll be our next discussion. And
okay,
just a lot of moving pieces. Thank you.
thank you. So.
What
if
would
we-
that
if we did
budget
the-
line item be, number be?
I'm sorry?
What would that number be? What,
Well, if we did the 111,000,
okay,
and you move that into there,
yeah, that'll,
then their
I'll have to add a capital.
bottom line is 48,150 approximately for next year's surplus.
Okay.
And I can go over those numbers with you again.
Yeah, I'll update it and send this back out to all of you, just with all the edits, so that we make sure we're all,
Does that sound all right to you?
anything up.
Okay. Please add if you have any comments on that.
No, on the reserve comment, I was going to note, just fresh perspective here, most municipalities in this state and other states use a rule of thumb of maintaining a reserve amount, an unrestricted reserve amount of anywhere between 10 and 20% of their annual budget. And here, with us having a general reserve fund of about 2.5 million and general reserve expenses of about 2.8, we sit at about 88%.
Yeah.
And most municipalities maintain about anywhere between 10 and 15%, meaning we're very healthy in the general fund. And so I just want to reinforce that on a positive note.
We also have a good credit rating, too.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, and I think my comment, honestly, Riley, is more, I would have rather seen money gone to splash pads and parks and a rec program than to consultant fees and things that I just don't think show people their tax dollars at work. That was where I was coming from.
We can look
But
at
I am glad to hear what you said about reserves, so that's good to know.
we can absolutely begin planning for a splash pad in this next fiscal year if that is what the mayor and council wish to do.
I do have some thoughts on just recreation in general.
Yeah.
I think that we'll probably try to tackle after in the next fiscal year. Not necessarily budget items. I'm sorry? Go ahead. Please come up.
Okay, thank you. Whoops. Here we are again.
Will you turn on your
I
microphone,
will,
please?
yes,
Yep.
thank you. So, the reason why the Land Use Development Code request for this fairly major expense, the reason it keeps coming back around is because our mayor and our planning and zoning director keep bringing it around. It's a major expense. We just heard about EMS needing money from our town. Having been a person that called 911 for my husband having a seizure, I can tell you, I sure wouldn't want to have to wait for them to get here from Thane or Afton. And I certainly think that the money that you're talking about, low end, middle end, high end, would be better spent on those services than a land use development code consultant. I feel very strongly the town should adopt a new rule. The town should adopt a rule that there is only one consultant study going on at a time. I have to ask a question. Who here is aware that who has reviewed the latest draft of our master plan that was sent out? A notice about it was sent out in the Palisades Post on June 2nd, and supposedly there you have an opportunity to review it. You do have the opportunity to review it on their website, and I haven't checked out their survey. I'm imagining it's probably very similar to their other surveys, general, etc. Okay? And that's going to be approved June 23rd?
No.
No.
It's being brought up before the council for approval according to their website.
It's not.
Okay, that's good news, thank you.
And I'm happy to report that they had inquired with me as to the requirements to pass it in the state of Wyoming. And so I let them know the initial thoughts, touched base with our attorney, developed a plan, and it will go, the draft will go to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We'll have a hearing on the 30th on the draft plan. And then they will look at adopting it if they feel it's appropriate on the 28th of July. And it will there will be a work session before Town Council, the first meeting in August, for them to be able to take public comment on the final and on the position of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and be able to review all that in a very public forum. And then it will come back to council the second meeting in August. Staff wanted to ensure, and the mayor wanted to ensure, that it was very heavily publicly vetted, so I have ensured that. And I hope really hope you're with us.
That's totally great
I
news.
really hope to see
Because
that.
actually, the plan, it doesn't appear to be complete. There's some missing sections and such, so that's excellent.
We all feel like this is your plan.
It is.
And we want, I mean, not you specifically.
No, it's
but
our,
everybody in Alpine.
right.
It is your plan, and we want it to be a reflection of you.
And so, thank you. And part of the reason I feel strongly as far as the one consultant at a time perspective is I truly believe, I know there's been word of people that want it to happen right now, that, oh, these things are done concurrently often, and I don't see how that is the most effective way to do it. The master plan comes first, you understand what the people in the community want, and then you revise the land use development code. I thought that they were doing a great job working through it piece by piece. That way you get a more community-driven product because they know what's going on around here. Now, at some point in the far distant future, perhaps, after we've finished all the travel study, because there's another consultant that once again, I don't feel like the public input portion of their job is being necessarily as productive and effective as it should be. And that's and this will be my final question, and then I'll give up the microphone. The travel study had an open house, and I meant to get with you on this with Monica to get my questions answered, but I'll ask right now because it's pertinent to the subject at hand. How many people came to the open house for the travel study?
It wasn't very well attended, and
Not well attended.
Monica, do you mind turning on your microphone?
Sorry, it was, I think there was one member of public. The rest of us who attended were staff members, council members, those sort of things. Yeah, one member of
The
public.
consultant was, felt disappointed, but a disappointment not necessarily with the community or with us, but I think more themselves, that they didn't go about it the right way to get the word out. So we're going to change strategies for the
Well,
next.
good, because it was a matter of not being properly advertised, and I've noticed a tendency to just ignore the independent, when the fact that the open house had occurred was in the Independent as a front page article, instead of the fact that we were having it, and please come. The posters and the flyers in the post office are effective for this community because the post office is the center of activity. Cushing Terrell never ever followed my request that they use the post office. I hope you will with the travel consultant study. So here's back to the whole one at a time rule, is that you can't really, too many things. Multitasking is overrated. That's the nicest way I can say it. And if we're spending $250,000, $300,000, I really want us to focus on that one thing and really give it our full attention and best effort so that it gets done well. Okay, and I appreciate that Cushing Terrell appears to have listened to some of the community input related to the town land. So we'll hope that the whole master plan, like the goals and objectives that aren't there right now, will follow along with that. There's still maybe a little things that they haven't quite listened as clearly, but we all work together and hopefully end up with a good product.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so now we'll move on to the water fund, which would be the blue for everyone attending.
Can I speak to the
Please, come on, up. Which one would you like to? Oh, sure, come on up. Tell us your name.
Bill Sachs, Alpine, hello.
Thank you.
So, I have spent the last 2 weeks, about 8 hours a day, rewriting the Land Use Development Code. So, not myself, high-end AI and myself, but an incredible amount of work has gone into this. So, what I would like the opportunity is to present that to you. I'll have it printed up. The 25 version was about 174 pages long. This one's a little more condensed, but there was bloat in that. There was maps and blank pages and whatever. But I would like to be able to present it to you and let you review it before we jump off into $100,000 spend on a consultant. That I think what you'll see is a better product. Now, you mentioned software. Do you not think it would be?
I don't know what experience you have. I don't know AI. Have you worked with our staff at all to develop, ask any questions about what the inadequacies are of the current land use development code?
Well, I found them. So, and
You found them just by reading it or putting it in AI?
both,
Okay.
both. So there's been a lot of effort that's gone into it. So I think at the very least, I mean, I know
You're more than welcome to present it to staff first and then to planning and zoning. They'll,
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's all I was letting
Yeah,
you know, is I
please.
put in a ton of work,
Of
and I'm
course.
just trying to save the town some money.
please.
And I'd like you to take a look at it before it gets dismissed, and,
Absolutely.
you know.
But I think it's important, we still need to budget for those things, whether it happens or not. Hopefully you save the day and you bring us something that's, saves us
Me too.
$100,000. So that'd be great, but I think we'll just present it to staff first, and then we'll let planning and zoning take a look at it, and then we'll get a recommendation from them. That'd be the best way to go about it.
Okay, all right, great.
Okay.
All right, appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, so now, Madam Administrator, do you mind reading the budget report? It's not quite as long for the water fund.
Absolutely. Is everybody ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
The water fund remains generally stable and currently has a cash position of more than $1,350,000 in the bank. The recent restructuring of water rates allowed the town to capture approximately $30,000 in additional annual revenue without increasing rates. The proposed budget also assumes approximately 33 new 3/4-inch single-family residential connections to the water system during the upcoming fiscal year. Grant revenue in the water fund includes several major items. The first is the remaining reimbursement for the Radio Read project. Billing for that project was delayed, and council will see those invoices come forward for approval at the June 23rd meeting. The remaining balance is approximately $660,000, which will be submitted for grant reimbursement in fiscal year '27. Grant revenue also includes approximately $205,000 for the water system tie-in project currently being designed by Sunrise Engineering, which is expected to be completed before June 27th. In addition, the budget includes approximately $89,000 for the well house generator project. On the expenditure side, the proposed amended fiscal year '26 budget includes the payment of invoices anticipated to be processed at the June 23rd council meeting. As a result, the fiscal year '26 amended budget shows a deficit of approximately $592,000. However, the deficit is primarily timing related and is offset by approximately $660,000 in grant reimbursement expected to be received in fiscal year '27. The fiscal year '27 budget also includes approximately $100,000 for placing individual meters in Tardy Village, a project that is currently being evaluated.
It's Targhee Village.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Woo.
I-
In addition, the fiscal year '27 budget includes the well house generator project and the mega well tie-in project. Based on the current budget and cash position, the water fund can carry these projects without difficulty. Because of the timing difference between the fiscal year '26 project expenditures and the fiscal year '27 grant reimbursement, the fiscal year '27 water fund budget shows net revenue over expenditures of approximately $826,000. However, that number is largely driven by the $660,000 grant reimbursement tied to a project expense occurring in the prior fiscal year. When the fiscal year '26 loss is netted against the fiscal year '27 gain, the water fund shows a working net positive position of approximately $235,000. The only major water project not currently funded through the capital request process that council may want to consider is the replacement of the water main on Nelson Lane and Overlook, which was reported to be approximately $292,000. The Nelson Lane water main should be considered critical infrastructure. Council could consider separating Nelson Lane and Overlook projects and planning to bid one or both early in calendar year '27, or it could take a wait-and-see approach depending on available funding and project priority.
Thank you. So to clarify, Madam Treasurer, if we're looking at the, let's see, line 318
Yep.
in columns C and D, we have $850,000 in the Radio Read project in D, but actually what you're saying is a big portion of that will come in fiscal year '27, correct?
Yeah. So essentially, the invoices are, that we've been waiting for the Radio Read project. I received them earlier this week, the previews of them. I anticipate you doing the request for payments, acting on request for payments on June 23rd, which means the expense will have to be booked in fiscal year '26. However, the grant reimbursement will have to be processed and come back to council. Probably the earliest will be the end of July. And so that pushes, so I had to push the grant income
Yeah.
into the other fiscal year.
Right. So
yeah.
the number on,
So that number there in column G, I threw it in column G.
Yeah.
I showed the net difference.
so, but basically, that's gonna, in reality, it says we have a loss of $592,000 in this fund, but in actuality, it's more of a positive of $235,000.
Well, yes, between the two.
Right.
I mean, if we could move the 660
Over, yeah.
into column D, we'd actually show about a $70,000 profit in this year. If we
Yeah.
took the 660 out of here, we would,
Right.
it's just a net.
So the sky's not falling, but
No.
it's just kind of.
It's an accounting
It's an accounting thing more than
maneuver.
anything.
Counting and timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Scafidi, do you have any questions on this water budget?
Nope.
Okay.
This one was pretty easy.
Yep. Mr. Larson, do you have any questions? Any projects that we need to consider?
Well,
moving?
just that, the only thing is, we did have the design, I haven't heard if it's 100% complete, but the design and permitting had already been awarded to Jorgensen. If it's not done, it's probably pretty close to done. But the replacement of Nelson Lane and Overlook is the only project that was on the list that I thought that you may want to consider. You also may want to just say, it'll be designed, let's wait until spring. It's really up to you guys. Or we could discuss with Jorgensen, because Nelson Lane is critical infrastructure. If that main, and that main has had problems, but if anything happens, that main, it shuts
down.
everybody's water off.
That's
So.
why tying in the mega well 4 is so important.
Exactly. So that's the only thing, if you guys wanted to consider or have Craig explore what the options were before the 23rd, when the budget circles back to you. I mean, there's $235,000 available.
I guess my feeling is, not before the 23rd. I think we should just land this budget.
And just wait and see.
And
Okay.
then,
Perfect.
what would the cost to design that project?
It's already being designed. That was approved last year.
Okay, so it's being designed. So I would think the best course of action would be
Just wait and
to
see.
just wait, and if there
Perfect.
ends up being an opportunity next year to do it, if something arises, then we jump on it.
Yeah, we'll know where we are after, spring of next year. You guys might want to
After the big snow
consider it.
season we have?
Yeah, we might want to see where
Okay.
we are there.
Sounds good. Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding the water fund? Okay, let's move on.
On Stewart Drive again. I just got a text about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not on Stroh Drive, it's
Trail.
Trail Drive.
Trail Drive.
What's the reason for those breaks?
Big
Yeah,
hit.
there was a contractor that's putting in infrastructure, I believe it's,
LVE contractor that's putting in, they're burying the power lines. So they're burying the power lines going from the hill down to Trail Drive. And
yeah.
yeah.
The infrastructure's there, of course, and we're marking it out, but there's been, stuff happens. Okay, wastewater report. Madam Administrator, do you mind tackling that one too? That one's the shortest yet.
Yes. The proposed wastewater fund budget is currently showing projected net revenue over expenditures in the negative, with a shortfall of approximately $424,000. In order to balance the fund for the fiscal year, the budget reflects the use of approximately $425,000 in available cash reserves. The current cash position of the wastewater fund is approximately $1,013,000. The budget includes the ultraviolet light project, budgeted at approximately $150,000. This project was originally budgeted in fiscal year '26 and has been pushed forward into fiscal year '27. The budget also includes a new lift station generator connection project, budgeted at approximately $45,000. This project would install the necessary connections at the lift station facilities to allow the town's mobile generator to be connected and used during power outages or emergency situations. A notable change in the wastewater fund is the reduction in the depreciation reserve line item. Last year, depreciation was budgeted at approximately $360,000. Based on a recommendation from Mayor Green, the fiscal year '27 budget reduces that amount to approximately $120,000, which would be placed into long-term reserves. In addition, based on the advice of council, the budget includes an additional $80,000 set aside in reserves as the first of 5 annual payments intended to prepare for replacement of the second train of membranes at the wastewater treatment plant in approximately 5 years. The budget includes estimated annual sewer service fee income of approximately $884,000. That amount is reduced by the current Melvin Brewing monthly payment of $12,000 per month, or approximately $144,000 annually, resulting in adjusted service fee income of approximately $740,000. The budget also assumes that Melvin Brewing will pay approximately 80% of the operating costs of the pretreatment plant. Those operating costs are currently estimated at approximately $311,000, making Melvin's estimated annual sewer billing approximately $248,000. Together, this results in a total estimated annual sewer income of approximately $988,000, which is the amount included in the proposed budget. The budget also assumes revenue from approximately 33 new 3/4-inch single-family residential connections during the fiscal year. Overall, the wastewater fund remains a significant concern. While there is currently sufficient cash available to balance the proposed fiscal year '27 budget, the fund is relying on approximately $425,000 in cash reserves to do so. It is essential that the town of Alpine dedicate resources this year toward identifying a long-term solution for the overall health and sustainability of the wastewater fund. Staff has already started working as a committee with Melvin Brewing to explore ways to reduce the overall cost of operating the new pretreatment facility. In addition, the town may want to explore whether there are any funding opportunities available to assist with upgrades, repairs, or replacement of the ultraviolet light system. These efforts will be important as the town evaluates both current operating costs and future capital needs within the wastewater fund.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we've detailed the ultraviolet light project and how important that is to the town. Of course, we're going to try to find any way possible to save money on that project, but talk about, I like to say there's 2 really important things we do. The most important things are sewer and water. So sewer, if we don't protect that and make sure it's working properly, then we potentially lose our license, and we get dinged by the EPA, DEQ, all the letters of the alphabet.
All the acronyms.
Yeah, whoever else would come after us if we weren't doing the best we could there. So I think that would also save us some energy, because the current system is running at 100% all the time for the ultraviolet lights. So a more efficient system would definitely save us power. So I think there's cost savings there that we'll eventually be able to take advantage of. What are the projects that we put in here? Monica, let's see, we've got Belch by Light and
Yeah.
the lift station generator connection project. Which lift station is that?
So that's for the mobile generator.
Okay,
So that the town purchased through that,
it was the lift station generator that was supposed to go in.
and
RV
instead,
park, yeah.
we ended up purchasing a mobile generator.
We got funding for it.
Yes,
Yes.
it was paid for.
Yep.
And so now we just need to equip the lift stations with the capacity to accept the generator.
So this $45,000 is the cost to
To-
get all of the lift
to-
stations
yes.
able to hook up to mobile?
Yeah, so that in the event that there's a sustained power outage, they can take it from lift station to lift station and pump it to the next lift
Yep.
station
And
and keep the system moving.
as you mentioned in your report, we're also actively always working with Melvin and
Yes.
to figure out ways to save costs there. And I know you and a team of people from the town worked with Melvin recently to brainstorm some ideas.
Yeah.
And we'll be, when the timing's right, we'll be discussing those.
Yeah, and they are, while I wanted to be clear about how I determined what the income is, because it's not the normal way you determine what the income will be for last year, so I wanted to be completely transparent. Melvin will, though, continue to pay the $12,000 per month for a couple more months, per the current agreement we have with them. So we have about 3 months to figure out what their rates will be, now that the pretreatment plan is working, up and running.
Part of it's working.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Have they been sold?
Not yet. Yep.
They're in negotiations, though.
So they are not selling the business.
Yeah, the business is not selling,
They're looking to sell the property.
yeah, they're looking to only sell the
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
With a leaseback.
Leaseback option, yeah.
Councilwoman had a question.
Oh, good.
Is it worked into the sewer budget to do pipe cleaning? Question
Or
mark.
the jetting.
We passed a resolution to do quarter of the sewer cleaning over the next 4 years. She just didn't see it in the budget.
Yeah, so on line 345, column G, you'll see the note that includes annual TV and jetting.
So say the number again, what line is it? 325?
I don't have
Oh, did I do it backwards? 385.
385. There we go.
385 includes
jetting.
annual
Yep.
TV
Yeah.
and jetting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers,
Yeah, so
Mr.
last
Curtis.
year, we spent about $38,000 on TV and jetting, well, this year, in this
Yep.
fiscal year. So we assume the approximately that amount in next year's as well.
all right. Ms. Scafidi, do you have any questions on this budget?
Yeah, the only thing I was wondering with the money that Melvin owes us, does that not sit under our debt service as money due? Because then that would clear up part of our in the red.
Yeah.
It sits in our AR,
And where's
So
that
do
cap?
you-
accounts
that-
receivable,
that
which is a
doesn't sit on our
balance sheet
budget?
item.
So that's a balance sheet item from what say it again,
Okay,
Monica.
no.
Yeah, it's on the balance sheet in accounts receivable, so when they pay it, it will go into the bank account. It will not be reflected in the income anywhere. It's already been
Okay.
reflected in a
already been
historical,
noted?
yes, yeah, in a historical income.
And then I guess the biggest question is, we're saying 311,000, but really, that's what it costs us, but we're only going to be getting 144.
No, that's what we're getting now, 144. What I budgeted, Shay, is for them to pay 80% of the total cost of the
311.
department that's named pretreatment plant.
So they would bring in, she's budgeted 248,000.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, just kind of wondering.
Because all the flow, because of the way that the pretreatment plant's been modified on the backside of turning off the equipment that was purchased. All the flow from the town of Alpine goes through the pretreatment facility and is dewatered. And so historically, it was determined by an engineer that Melvin's flow represented 80% of that capacity for the dewatering, for the sludge. And so I used that assumption in my analysis for the budget.
Yeah. And just to make sure we're on the same page, Shay, if we did get that payment that you were referencing from Melvin,
Yeah.
where that would affect is our cash position report. So, for example, for round
Yeah,
numbers,
versus our budgetary.
correct.
Yeah, it's the same that if Melvin pays off their recapture, that $1.7 million, that'll go into the general fund.
Okay, and it
Oh,
sounds
that
like,
has to go into the so that can't go into our sewer.
Okay, so, and I will say that I'm certain, in the event that they are successful in selling the property and that the town is paid off, I think Riley and I will work together to come up with solutions where maybe that could benefit town infrastructure if that's what the desire of the council is.
Yeah.
And there is ways to do that for economic development.
yeah, I think that's, we can decide on that once we know.
Once they're successful, I think then we'll figure out what we have and figure out what we can do with it.
Yeah, once they're successful.
Yeah.
We'll knock on wood on that.
Yeah, I agree.
Mr. Larson, do you have any other comments, questions on this wastewater fund?
Not on that.
Okay. Ms. Kafee just asked her a question. There was a couple comments or questions. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Marlene O'Leary. Mr. Mayor, I wondered what percentage, if you know the percentage of water consumption that Melvin Brewing,
I don't.
I mean, we're talking sewer and that
Oh.
80% figure, you know, but how much consumption?
So, so let's be totally, make sure we're on the same page. So the 80% number is, so we produce sludge as a town. And we've established through engineering has told us that Melvin produces 80% of our sludge. So we're saying that 80% of the sludge that we're getting is Melvin's and they should pay for that, right? Is that, they're not.
Yeah, but I just wondered how much consumption of water that they, you know,
That-
if you know that, that's
They are not a big user,
as a user, the percentage of,
but
you know, you
we
have
can
the
get it
water.
for you. I can ask Melody to pull the report, but they are not a large user, and they actually discharge way less
Yeah.
liquid into the sewer than, because they consume some of it through their processes, but what they discharge creates a lot of sludge. So,
Yeah, of
but I'll
course.
get you those numbers.
Yeah,
They're
that would be
bottling
great.
the water, right? So.
Pardon me?
They're bottling the water, they're making beer out of it and then shipping it off so it's not a like 1-to-1 ratio, whatever comes in, you see go into the sewer, like would be more traditional with like a residential.
No, I just want the number,
Yeah,
bring it
we'll get
in.
Email staff and they could give you that number.
Yeah.
Email whom?
Melody would be the right person at
All
the
right.
town of Alpine.
All right, thank you.
Did you have another question?
No, she answered.
Okay, great.
And you were going around.
Okay, perfect.
Monica, do they pay door rate for the water?
Do they what?
Well, we call it door rate, but do they pay what everyone else pays
For water?
consumption?
In water, yes.
Do they pay it in a bulk? So there's no discounts to the water that they use?
No.
No, it's.
They pay the same rates as everybody
It's
else.
metered, it's the same, it's just like the town of Alpine pays for the
Even-
watering and the irrigating and all that stuff, we pay the same rate.
Yeah, we pay the same, the town pays the same base rate and the same per gallon charge. So does Melvin.
They do pay a different rate for their, the size of the line. They pay,
Yeah, they don't pay like a three-quarter line.
No, their base rate's based on what, a 6-inch line?
they have a huge,
Or
I don't know if
whatever.
it's 6 or, but of
6 or
course, their
4.
monthly is much higher than anyone else, yeah.
That estimate.
Okay, great.
Looks like we're making progress with Melvin's, huh?
We're
That's
trying.
good.
Yeah.
But I do have a concern related to the outstanding balance for sludge. Mr. Cox referred to possibly being willing to make a good faith payment if his 20,000 square foot addition was approved. I'm sorry, I don't like that. I really would like to see that amount being paid ASAP. It shouldn't have been carried as a balance as long as it has. It should be subject to a late charge, an ordinance that was recently enacted, in my opinion. So, the question I have is, the last time Melvin sold to a new owner, and I realize this is a different situation, sale leaseback, but the last time Melvin's sold to a different owner, the town surrendered close to $100,000 of those sludge removal payments that were due. It just kind of was forgiven. I want to be sure that this much higher balance of sludge removal that's due doesn't just get written off. And so that's my comments about the sludge removal. And I'm glad to see you're making the progress as far as them paying more. And I guess the final comment would be, if they're paying 80% of the sludge removal or the cost of the wastewater treatment plant, perhaps they should also be responsible for some of the initial, the construction costs, because they're the reason that we had to put the wastewater pretreatment plant into operation. So personally, I think they should be contributing towards that as well. All right, my final question, and I won't, this is budget related, but not necessarily, it may, you know, the whole, the sewer connections. I don't know if the amount you've got in there is indicative of the reduced, it would seem that the annexation agreement that was entered into at the last council meeting will be reducing our sewer connection fees in that particular area. That's a concern, but my main concern about that agreement is I don't understand how, first of all, we have the same lawyer who made the original problematic agreements, reviewing those agreements and coming up with the new agreement. I think we should have had a fresh set of eyes, frankly, okay? Nothing against our lawyer, but I just think there should have been a fresh set of eyes. Secondly, I don't understand how that agreement, the de-annexation clause, I don't understand how the de-annexation clause can be in there when we passed an ordinance in 2025, January 2025, saying that the town would not be giving service, sewer or water, to people who were not part of the town. That was a good move. So we kind of seem like we're going backwards if we allow that de-annexation clause. So I guess I'd like to ask you how that was possibly legal.
I'd like to answer your questions in order, and remind me what your first one was about Melvin.
Paying off
Paying off, okay.
Yeah.
So we have discussed it as a town council, and everyone is on board that the only way that their sale would happen is if they pay off that portion that they owe.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not going to be some forgiveness or whatever. Okay. Basically, it'd almost be like putting a lien on our own property or whatever, and we don't need to lien our own property. We just won't let them close unless they pay that off. That answers that one. Let's go down the line. What's the next one?
But then I think that if this possible sale falls through, we need to have a set, you're going to pay this amount and get it paid off in a year, let's say, okay?
And also, we can't charge back interest. Yeah, we can. So we just enacted that ordinance.
Right.
And so everything going forward, if they don't pay, we can charge a late fee on that.
Right.
But we can't do it on past due in that amount. It's illegal for us to do that. So, and then to go to your other comment about the attorney and the agreement. Now, you mentioned that our connection fees are going down?
No, I wondered if it was if we were going to have lower connection fees for the water and sewer because of the agreement that was made with Alpine Lakes as far as the credits.
So, no, Monica, would you like to?
Their agreement requires them to pay the full amount of the current capacity fees and connection fees that are adopted by ordinance. However, prior to the agreement, they were anticipating connecting at no cost, like with no cash participation. Now that the agreement's in place, every time they connect, they will give us a credit towards their total due, so that we will get, if they connect the full 180 water and sewer credits, the town of Alpine will deposit $1.2 million over the period that it takes them to do that. With the agreement that was signed by the previous administration, I think it was assumed that they would hook up 180 water credits, 180 sewer credits at no cost.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it's 180 credits at the 2022 value.
Correct.
Not at today's value.
Not at
Yeah,
today's
and
value.
I understand why you wanted to clean things up and not have this be an ongoing thing. At the same time, how does that de-annexation clause fit with ordinance 2025,
The
whatever,
ordinance
whatever?
allows us, like,
I was going
you.
to say, my guess, sorry to step on you.
You're
is
fine.
One, legally, I assume Jim put that in there legally because it needs to be in there, because anybody can de-annex.
Uh-huh.
And then as far as it relating to the ordinance that we passed, that anybody on our system needs to be within the town, it would be my guess is if somebody decides to de-annex, be it them or any resident, current resident within the town of Alpine, by all means, you can de-annex. We will cut your service off, though.
Cut service or pay
Your
more?
availability to tie in will
Yeah.
be eliminated.
Yeah.
So,
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
But in that
interesting.
agreement that was passed, they still have the credit.
Right.
Yeah, they would
Right.
have the credits, but they
Yeah.
can only use them if they're in the town of Alpine, so,
No, they can
No,
use
they
them
can
if
use
they're
them
not.
now without
That's what
being
the
in the town
agreement
of
said.
Alpine. That's what that annexation agreement said.
So in our current moratorium on allowing people to connect outside of the town of Alpine, as you know, council had allowed language to be in there to allow people to connect to this system. They can't just come in and make an application and get a connection. They have to come to town council. So by enacting that agreement, town council enacted their ability to connect to the system, even if they de-annex.
right, but they'd have to come to town council.
But yeah,
Right.
yes.
So it's not like,
Clean.
once you're in,
Yes.
you have the access, and then if they de-annex, like, they're still gonna have to come to town council and get approval
Yes.
for any connections
Mm-hmm.
happen. I think it's unlikely that, and the other thing about, the attorney that did the previous agreement, you would have to ask our attorney, but all those agreements primarily were done with the previous mayor and the town engineer. Like,
And our current town lawyer.
was very rarely used in a lot of those. That's what we've found.
He cleaned it up before the prior administration. That was where the 2022 agreement came from. They were trying to get it all legal before the mayor
The old
left
administration went.
office.
So, but I just don't know how much he was involved in that. But at this point, it's neither here nor there. The
Okay.
agreement's in place, so I hear your concerns,
Okay.
and we will take note of them.
Thank you for your answers. And then the final comment, Mr. Cox's comment about good faith agreements related to higher densities. Good faith agreements are what got us into this situation to begin with. I don't agree with them getting higher density because of them having a perceived sacrifice. Those people, I don't think that any developer should get special consideration that way. They should have never gotten the special consideration to have their infrastructure paid for, not just water and sewer, but from the looks of it, we put in their whole phone and power system over there in those Weeman projects. So I thank you for your very careful stewardship of dollars, and I just when I hear the word coming from certain individuals saying good faith, I get a little bit nervous. I think you need to have very clear understandings when you make these agreements, and so thank you very much. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know exactly what you're referencing. It's
When you had the special work session, you pushed it from the town council, and you had Mr. Cox presenting on behalf of the Alpine Lake subdivision.
Is this the most recent meeting? Is that the one you're talking about? or-
No, not June 2nd, it was the week before.
Okay.
It was a special work, when was
Oh,
it?
our budget, okay, yeah.
Is that what you're referencing?
Yeah, I don't know, but he got up and talked about Alpine Lakes and how we were being really benefited, and then also the whole Melvin sludge and his request for you to consider the 20,000 square
So
foot.
those are two totally different things, right?
Right,
Yeah,
totally,
okay.
yeah.
I guess the only thing I would say, the land use development code is the document that's going to require them, that's going to give them the density and all that stuff. So
Right.
again, that's why that's so important.
Well, and that's why it's so important to take your time and get the master plan done first. Part of it I noticed is wanting a 4-story, and I can't remember what else. I haven't reviewed it carefully enough, but there's some stuff in that master plan that I don't know that the majority of people in Alpine would want to see, and that's why I just would like us to take things nice and slow.
And that's why you're here to help get the word out, right?
I'll get the word out for you, Eric, for sure.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, thanks for your comments. Thanks. Anything else? I think we'll wrap it up if there's not. Ms. Scafidi, do you have anything to add?
No, I got to get going.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So do we. Thanks. All right. Take care. I'll adjourn this meeting now. It's at 4:17.